Mm. Hello, welcome everyone. We are live today. I'm coming on live on October 2nd, and we are live for the solar eclipse happening in Libra, and we are right in it just took place. I believe, if I have the time right, but I can feel it. My heart is really pounding. So, this is Shannon Port, divine feminine astrologer and teacher of the feminine mysteries. And it is so good to be here with you live today. This is a big event. We're in eclipse season, and it's rare that I go live right on the eclipse. In a solar eclipse and a lunar eclipse, it's really recommended that you kind of remain calm and not be too active. But I felt like it was important to come on today. I came really close to putting it off until Friday, just because the energy is very, very potent. And it's not just that the energy of the eclipse is potent. It's a solar eclipse. It's an annular solar eclipse, but it's also the archetypal activation on the planet. And I mentioned in the video, hello everyone. I mentioned in the video that in the United States we're in election season, and it's that so there's all because of just the way it's been in the world in the past 10 years or so. The energy is really building, and the eclipses are definitely adding to what is happening right now. We'll be talking about that. There's so much moving under the surface right now. With the lunar eclipse in Pisces, we saw the first dip of the energy into the 12th house, which is the house of the subconscious mind and the house of the dark feminine, the house of the deep, deep womb of the soul, where all things are hidden. It's ruled by Neptune. The last lunar eclipse was ruled by Neptune in Pisces. And so it activates both the most spiritual energy, but also the energy of the darkest deception. And so it's really significant to note, this is for the United States, that as we enter as it becomes time for the new leader to be put in place in January of 2025, that will be exactly when the North Node is transiting from Aries into Pisces. And that Piscean North Node is going to bring up a lot. It's going to bring up all that is hidden. It's going to bring up a lot of emotion, all of the victim consciousness that is buried on the planet. That could be the victim consciousness from all of the suffering and all of the the discord that's happening right now. A lot of discord, a lot of suffering, and all of that that energy is going to rumble extra loud because of the North Node entering Pisces. And so today we're going to be talking about the solar eclipse in Libra, which is ruled by Venus. It's a different energy. Libra is one of my biggest archetypes that I work with and talk about. And so, for me, the eclipse is falling in my third house. And so I'm trying to be really slow and present as I speak, because the eclipse is in my house of communication. You might look up where the eclipse is happening for you. It's a solar eclipse. It's an annular eclipse where the moon passes between the sun and the earth and creates a ring of fire. And so it's very good to be here. I didn't send this out to my list. I barely got it up, so I'm not sure how many people will be on live today. Today it might be a little smaller than usual, but then I will send it out this evening because we're going to talk about some really important things. And so, all right. Okay, I'm going to start with a little introduction, and then, as promised, I'll tell you about, I'll just mention the course that's coming. That's actually really big, and it goes along with the eclipse really well. So, this is what I just jotted down, and then there's a lot of other information. This won't be a lecture. We're going to look at the archetypal codes of Libra, and we're going to work with the archetypes of the Empress and the High Priestess. For those of you who are really familiar with my work, you know that the whole Light Body Woman platform was built on hours and hours of lectures on these archetypes. When we did the Art of the Feminine podcast, I spent years working with the High Priestess and the Empress on the Kabbalistic level. And so they're really, really deeply um they're personified in the archetype of this work, and we're going to be looking at those in a really special way today. So this is what I just wrote. The dark forces use the zodiac to control and manipulate humanity. I know this sounds negative, but I'm going to be looking at some of the truths behind the structure of consciousness in the underworld. The dark forces use the zodiac to control and manipulate humanity. They work through the fallen body of the goddess, which is the animal nature of the subconscious mind, the feminine mind, the feminine mind. The feminine woman is the living archetype of Eve and Lilith, of Eve and Lilith. And therefore, through the law of correspondence of the heart and the womb, they work through the collective woman. Meaning the forces really work through the feminine in a female vehicle, and also people who are very spiritual, people who are tuned into the feminine, people who are oftentimes artists and creatives are also very tuned into this energy, and those who suffer, who access the shadow side of it. Pain and suffering is a representation of the lower side of the subconscious mind. And it doesn't mean it's always bad. In fact, when we come in to be initiated, as I spoke of in the last video, we have a contract to take on this archetypal resurrection, and that will lead our soul in physical and emotional embodiment through the emotional body. The emotional body is highly connected to the feminine. The mental body is more associated with the masculine energy. However, and I will also say Libra is a masculine sign in the zodiac. Before Libra is Virgo, which is feminine, and then Libra is a masculine polarity, and Scorpio following Libra is feminine. So Libra holds the air side of Venus. It's ruled by Venus, but it's more of the intellectual side of Venus. Taurus holds more of the sensual and the heart through matter, Venusian energy. However, both signs ruled by Venus, both Taurus and Libra, are very connected to the archetype of the Empress via the correspondence of Venus, and the High Priestess, which is the correspondence of the moon. And so I'll talk about the moon is exalted in the sign Taurus. I love doing the Taurus videos. I'm Taurus, and the moon, as the moon works, the lunar feminine energy of Eve and Lilith are responsible for bringing in the cosmic rays that form matter, mater, and mother. The feminine expression of form relies upon the energy of the moon. The moon, anybody who gardens or grows crops, the moon represents the waxing and the waning of both the incoming energies as well as the earthbound or the subterranean energies are both very much under the rulership of the moon. The moon is very, very powerful. Libra, I'll get to that. I'm going to continue, and there's just 2 pages here. So what we're saying here is that we hear a lot about how the dark there's a we've been talking about this also, that on this planet there's a battle between the light and the dark right now, and it's very much amplified. It's really present. We're at the end of a cycle. We're at the end of a cosmic cycle and getting ready to enter a new one. And so we're at the peak where these forces are fighting for the energy of the soul. Now, if you're religious, you might be into sort of the apocalyptic or the messianic messages that it's time to be saved. We need salvation. We need to be redeemed, or else we will fall. And on the archetypal level, we receive that because there's a lot of truth to that. The cosmic forces are energetic, and they fight through the various realms of consciousness. When we think of the subconscious realm, we think of the underworld, but we're also living in the fallen archetype of the human being, which is the subconscious realm. And that's why we say the zodiac has been compromised. It's become fully animalized, or the human being had to take on a more carnal nature. That's why we see, when we talk about, I've taught a lot about the fallen Mars impulse over the years. The fallen Mars impulse is the fall of Eros, the desire body, or the body of desire, and war, the energy of passion. So Mars in its heightened energy is pure Shakti energy. We say sometimes Adi Shakti, as you hear in some of the yogic and Eastern traditions. Adi Shakti is the highest form of the female vibratory energy, of the highest form of feminine energy, and it's associated with Holy Spirit or the Divine Mother. It's the cosmic radiance of the Christ force. But when that energy falls, the energy of Mars, and Mars used to rule Scorpio. So when we talk about the 8th house mysteries of the fall, we include Mars in this work very powerfully, because it represents Mars falling through carnal desire, meaning that the nature of how we merge with each other became under the rulership of the animal side of the soul, which means that force is used for pleasure and pain. So if you remember back to the Art of the Feminine podcast, I talked a lot about the desire, fear cycle and the pleasure and pain cycle. In this world, desire is always followed by fear. So think about that. Think about the whole idea of how we mate and how we pursue love. This desire, fear affects love in the underworld. It reduces love to be under a strong influence where love can be used and manipulated, and it can carry huge levels of pain. That's why we have so much pain in love relationships. And that's what this work is really about, healing. So that's why when we heal love, we work with what we call the dragon current, the sexual current, and we work with bringing it into the heart. Libra is the heart. Libra is the scales and balance. It's also the seventh house. And so Libra is where we just begin to enter the law of relationships now. Libra can also apply to friends and we and the group, but it's the beginning of talking about marriage. As we get into Scorpio, we get into more of the enforced contract of a real marriage when you marry someone and you merge with them. You come under a contract. Even the laws of the underworld with the institution of marriage require a real contract, and it is a contract. You merge your finances, you merge your space, your home, and oftentimes you give birth to children. And so, and the children also in this world carry a part of our karma. It means that you hear that saying, the sins of the father and the sins of the mother, our own karmic lineage is passed on to our children. I think I have a really good quote, if I remember writing a couple days ago, that I will read about that. So, because it's a solar eclipse, I just have to grab a little bit more water, and I can see I'm almost done with my second. You have to really hydrate. When the solar eclipse comes, it has a drying effect. It's quite potent. The new moon today is really amplified. It's like turbocharged. So make a strong intention. Find out what house this new moon is in for you. So for me, it's in communication, and you might look at where that energy is most potent for you because it will be extra strong today. So, we're going to talk more about Libra. Let me see where I go from here. All right. They work so in the underworld, because the feminine is the subconscious, and women, we hold that sensitivity. We hold that inner plane polarity. We hold the etheric. The etheric, which is connected to the lunar and the vital forces of Eve. We are naturally attuned to it, both the light side and the dark side. And this is a strong correspondence with Libra. And we also have a great responsibility. I'm speaking to women today, and also all those who identify with female energy and who are interested in it, and to the feminine nature in all those who are born in a male vehicle. We all have it. But I'm also speaking really powerfully to women right now. This is a very big time in the world, and there's more details. We'll talk about that in just a moment. So, through the correspondence of the heart, which is Libra, and the womb. So, divine feminine astrology is about resurrecting the divine nature of the woman and the feminine as the light body woman. This archetype has been given as the resurrection codes, the whole practice of light body yoga, and all of the light body woman mentorships were to really, really receive for this time what the work will be going forward. I wrote a couple posts on Instagram. I know one had a lot in it. It was the one that had the Edward Robert Hughes woman with the 12 stars on her head. You might go and read that at Art of the Feminine on Instagram, and make sure to join me there. It's also on Facebook at Art of the Feminine. But I know I can't remember what I wrote, but a lot came into that. Everything that we write here is esoterically coded with the archetypes, because that's what the work has been here. So the work, when we do divine feminine astrology, it's the regeneration. And so that's why I've told you recently that a lot of schools won't work with the zodiac because it governs time and space. And so we also work above. A lot of my training has come, a lot of it, but on levels that I don't speak about so openly here, with a Kabbalistic level that works above the Zodiac. So it's working on a higher realm that governs the lower realm. And so when we work here, we use that wisdom as the resurrection codes so that we can really integrate the wisdom and understand how our human body is truly a profound vessel. We call it the goddess vessel for our consciousness. So, okay. So I have I'm just going to mention the name of what's coming. I haven't put it out yet. I said I would put it out, but this is what I'm just going to mention it. So the work that we also do is through goddess ritual. Goddess ritual. And so I'm so excited to announce that what is coming, and I will be posting it in the next couple days, and I'll come back and post it under the video. But I want to take a moment to say it right here. It's called Goddess Ritual, and the theme is feminine crucifixion, the holy descent of INANNA. It's called, the 8-week course is called Feminine Crucifixion, the Holy Descent of INANNA. And so I've taught INANNA for years and years and years, but this is going to be so special. And so I'll just tell you, the details are coming, but this is how profound it is. When I was shown that this is the course that you're going to be doing this fall, immediately it was like, okay, well, that's easy. Samhain will be when we start. The opening ceremony will take place on Samhain, the Celtic pagan New Year. And I wasn't even at around a calendar or anything when I got it. And I knew it. I received it. This will be 8 Fridays. And I just want to share this with you because this is how auspicious the divine feminine works through us when we're really attuned. I knew it. I was like, it's got to be Friday. I feel it. I know it. I went and looked at the calendar and saw when All Hallows Eve falls on Thursday evening. And once you know it, All Saints Day, and the next part of the window of Samhain on Friday is November 1st. And so I just have to tell you this. And then I was like, I know it, I feel it, I know it. It's going to be 8 Fridays, and I knew it. It ends on winter solstice, the eve of winter solstice. So I will be talking about that a little bit more later, but this is going to hold the true goddess rituals that will address the dark feminine and the regeneration of the Crone, which holds the holy wisdom in ways that I haven't taught before. Now, I just want to say this is leading up to, this month is really sacred. We're in October. Today is October 2nd, and this whole month will be leading up to it, even into the Scorpio new moon, where we'll actually talk about Samhain. So I just wanted to let you know that right now. Okay, we're going to be working with the archetype symbols and codes, and also the Kabbalistic wisdom that this platform is based on. So I'm going to be speaking some things that are really deep and powerful with the correspondences of the archetypes that have been really highly developed here. Okay, the North Node is huge. This is something that I want to really tell you today on the solar eclipse. The solar eclipse is happening in Libra because the South Node is transiting Libra and the North Node is transiting Aries. So I have always been really energetically connected to the transit of the nodal points. It's something that psychically, and it's in my Kabbalistic chart also, that I have a deep kind of a psychic energy that connects with the moon and healing the moon realms and the lunar feminine energy. So I feel it deeply, and as the I've always if it all going back on the videos in this channel, you'll notice that every time there's a transit of the North Node and it's moving, it's like it's a huge prophetic, um, vision that comes in, and I'm always quite surprised how I receive it so clearly. So we're going to talk a little bit right now. So right now, the North Node, I believe it's at 6 degrees Aries. I'm not sure if that's the exact degree. It's conjunct my an important part for me, and the South Node is in Libra. So this is a South Node eclipse. All right. The nodes of the moon are very important because the nodes of the moon, which are the North Node and South Node, represent the lunar feminine. They are the nodes of Eve and Lilith. We call it the dragon's head and the dragon's tail. So you want to really find out what your North Node is, what sign it is in, and what house, because that will give you a lot of information. It will tell you where the eclipses were happening at the time you were born. And there's even deep studies to understand where the eclipses were when you were in your mother's womb. We enter through in the underworld through the moon realms. We're under this kind of like hypnotic spell of the underworld and the underbelly of the moon. So these eclipses tell us a lot about the karmic influence that's affecting the group of souls that we journeyed into incarnation with. So make sure to find that out now. The moon realms are also highly connected to the subconscious feminine through the high priestess that we work with in the tarot, and also the dark moon. So we have key 2 and key 18. We're talking Lilith and Eve. That's how we speak of these archetypes. It's what was given in the work that we've done over the years. So Lilith governs Pisces, and the high priestess is connected to many different archetypes, but the high priestess is connected to Libra through the archetype of justice. So in justice, we actually see the high priestess sitting between the pillars of light and dark, and she's holding the sword of divine justice. This is truly the image of the high priestess that sits in the archetype of Libra. And so Libra is ruled by Venus, but we know that the high priestess is working through. And she, in this case, she's the cosmic feminine sword of the law. She is the law. And so this solar eclipse in Libra is activating the law of the high priestess and of the archetype justice. So just one moment. This archetype is so profound. It is the heart of the divine feminine wisdom. Justice is the heart. And so through correspondence, you understand that Libra, ruled by Venus, which is the heart, but this is the intellectual heart. We might say the higher heart. This is the heart that knows truth. Now, the lower heart is more emotional. Libra's not a super emotional sign. It's a very discrimination sign. It's a sign of discernment. And also, it's a sign of the scales. It's the sign of the goddess Ma'at. And it's the sign of weighing the energy of the soul. And we have that representation of weighing the truth of what energy is held in our human heart. That is justice. When we talk about the purification of the underrealms, we're talking about regaining the true power of the heart, which is the power of the Empress. which is the power of the creative imagination, which is the power of abundance and spiritual wealth. Now, as the North Node begins to enter into Pisces, I'm going to give this as a code. And so, one of the esoteric codes of Libra is that only Libra can balance the energy of Pisces. We have to have the balance of Libra in order to even come close to being able to work with the feminine energy that is held in Pisces. Pisces is the 12th sign. It is the sign of the great work in alchemy. It is the magnum opus of the alchemists. It is Pisces where we are crucified. We have the symbol of the fish, which is the symbol of the Christ. And so Pisces holds the energy of deep, deep suffering and victimhood, but it also holds the power of the artist, the high artist. It is ruled by Neptune. We're speaking of Pisces now because of this North Node transit, and also because of its correspondence with Lilith and Eve, the serpent and the prophetess. So Pisces is governed by Neptune. Neptune is a higher octave of Venus. Venus is exalted in the sign Pisces. I'm speaking to this now because we are going to need this energy in the coming 2 years and moving forward. This is the energy of understanding that our creativity, our imagination is projecting our own consciousness as an overlay to this world that we live in. We used to sometimes say it was like a hologram, and it is. The projections you hear in psychology, we project, which is very true. We project what we hold inside us, our wounds, our fears. And Pisces is the sign of fear. The deepest night terrors, the deepest bad dreams live in Pisces, in the underworld. Until we have faced those, our projections and how we see, how we vision always are always tainted with that energetic fallen energy or distortion. It's a distorted energy. And that's why I'll never forget when I wrote the first write-up, when I had my Art of the Feminine, my first website page. And I started writing so much about the subconscious mind and how this would be the regeneration of the subconscious mind. And we know that to be true. But this is such a huge part of who we are because it's the regeneration of the feminine. The feminine and masculine are actually meant to be like the Vesica Pisces, and they're meant to be equal with each other, in harmony, married. Think about that Vesica Pisces. It's like the rings of marriage. And it's like, it's funny because you see the old marriage symbols. I just remember seeing, maybe they were religious, but you see the 2 rings over each other. That's the Vesica Pisces. And so that we also have Libra, which is the sign of the scales and marriage. And so there's a strong connection. So see if I wrote anything on this page. To resurrect, okay. The high priestess and the dark moon of Lilith and Eve, we are here to resurrect the initiated prophetess as the oracles of the goddess Epoch, the coming age of Sophia. So what that means is that when we're talking about the prophetess, it doesn't necessarily mean visioning the future as in I'm divining, I'm seeing what's coming. We can do that because that we enter the Akashic record, and my work has been deeply in the Akashic record, and it's profound what you can see, although there's always a little bit of error because of the space time, the space time situation that we're in can distort. However, the prophetess, the true prophetess, speaks for the heart because the heart is the well of the true creative imagination. It has an underbelly, which is sometimes referred to as the hell realms or the lower astral plane. It's where the heart is ravaged and used in this lower frequency of love. When you think about when you're born as a human being, all of us have certain needs. We need to be loved. We need to feel nurtured and desired. We need to feel like somebody cares if we exist or not. This is such a deep, deep desire. And when you look around the planet and you see all the suffering and all how technology has just saturated our ability to really speak to each other through love. Pisces is divine love. And although Libra's looking at the more balanced vision of love, it's saying, okay, we want the feely love, but we also want the wisdom. The true meaning of justice is wisdom. The divine feminine wisdom is governed by balance and by justice, which means that sometimes we plunge, but there's always that balancing aspect that helps us to see the truth rather than the projected hologram. We see the truth. Now, oh my God, I know there's something big coming in this, so I just want to see. So just know that's what we mean. All right, let me see what I have. Because I remember there was something really powerful to look at for Libra. Okay. Oh, I know what I want to do. Okay, so I'm just going to say hello and look down and see who's here. Oh, it's so nice to see you. It's so great to see you, and I would love it if you're not subscribed. If you subscribe, the videos are getting really juicy, and there's going to be a lot. I'm here to stay for a long time, so I'm just going to take a peek. It's so nice to see all of you, and I've seen a lot of you in the comments recently, which has been really nice. It's at the place where I can still like go through and look at everything and see everyone, so I love that. And so, okay, what I wanted to say. I want to say a couple notes about the last video because the last video, first of all, if you have not seen the Lilith mysteries that we did, we did that in between the lunar eclipse and equinox. This video is very deep and very intense. I watched it twice and I was like, oh my God, it's quite deep and it's time stamped. And so I've been time stamping the videos. I just want to let you know if you're new that there's a playlist called the esoteric feminine codes, and all the videos are time stamped. So some of those lectures, I time stamp them like every 5 to 10 minutes. So you can, if you want to go back and look for something, it's right there. And that's why I'm doing it. So the Lilith mysteries are now time stamped. It's the last video we did. So make sure if you're really interested in this work to check that video out. And this video I'll time stamp as well. So I want a couple notes on that video. As I watched it, I wanted to clarify and make sure that some things are clear. All right. So we mentioned conspiracies. I've mentioned it quite a few times, and I've been talking about conspiracies because conspiracies is very Piscean. Conspiracy, suspicion, distorting reality. I'm telling you, as we enter into the Pisces, the transit of this North Node in Pisces, it's going to get pretty, it could get really wild. So it's a good time to balance, get yourself together, and really know your feminine power. This is the time for that. So I want to say about conspiracies. without going too deep, there are shadow forces at work, without a doubt. That is that is true. And there's a lot of teachings about how in the mysteries how we approach this and how we don't get consumed by them or addicted to them. If we're addicted and we can't stop looking at, oh my God, oh my, a part of our soul goes to it and we take it in, we ingest it. So it's such a fine balance. Libra can teach us. Libra is like, okay, I need to know this, but now how do I integrate my power? That's where we need to be. This is there even just in politics. Oftentimes when I do Libra videos, if those of you who know my work, I've often called it the politics of the goddess. That is what this archetype represents. So, right now, even in politics, right left polarity politics in the US and in the West and all over the world, there's a deep struggle. And the struggle is more than just the surface struggle. The surface struggle shows where our values are, what our ideals are. It activates our ego a lot. Like, oh, it gets brutal. I mean, y- political strife and battles, even with family and friends and groups, cuts to the very core of the ego because we feel so threatened and so offended and so righteous about what we believe. And so politics is one of those things. It used to be more where people just kind of didn't engage the way we do now, but with social media in the past, since about 2008, it's everywhere. You can't really avoid it. And so it's a huge part of the collective consciousness. So let me just see if there's anything to say about that. It's really on. As always, the ideals of both sides represent the ideals of the pillars of justice. So in the goddess archetype of Libra, you see her sitting between the two pillars. Let's call one the right and one the left. One is a feminine polarity and one is a masculine polarity. We see that in the outward expression of this. We sometimes call it the Mars Jupiter because I work with the tree of life. So at the higher level of the microcosm, you have Mars and Jupiter right opposite each other. One is very feminine, one is very masculine, but they actually shift polarity. So on the ego level, which is, I'm not saying the bad ego, but just the mind, how we think. Okay, where do we want to go with this? We need to let people be who they are and have their beliefs because the surface level beliefs, some are a little more conservative, some are a little more liberal, they hold the polarity of creation in place. I think it was Dion Fortune talked about that. She said we have to have the extreme in polarity to hold the whole archetype of creation in place. But we have to understand how we live in the heart. This is Libra, this is justice. Understand that the polarity of different opinions. So one on the tree of life, one is mercy and love, and one is severity and strength. So let's just look at that. Okay, so I'm just kind of calling forth a picture. So, um, mercy and love is considered the Jupiter polarity. Strength and severity falls under the Mars polarity. They are the spheres of Chesed and Gibora. And so these cosmic forces work together to hold everything in place, and they work in human consciousness as the masculine and feminine. They're allowed to be there. What is happening right now is because we're in the lower expression of both, we have to learn to call forth the true expression. That's what this work is about. The true expression of Jupiter is love and creativity and generation. The generating principle of the Empress. The Empress is the number 3 in the arcana, in the tarot. The number 3 is the exoteric number of Jupiter. The number of Jupiter in what's it called? Numerology is 3. So it shows the correspondence between the Empress and Jupiter. Okay. So we need to, with Jupiter, understand love. And this connects with Neptune and Pisces and the generation that comes through our creativity, our mind has to be held with love and power and mercy. We have to learn this is the message of the Christ and the Buddha, to be kind, to love each other, to use wisdom, but to understand how we use our creative power. We are working more, and I'm going to be doing this in the course really intensely. The course that the INANNA, the descent, is how to regain full creative power of the feminine, how to reclaim, remember, and regenerate that force, because at this time, those with spiritual consciousness are meant to know how to create, not in a very silent way, how to use our meditation, how to use our art, how to use our love relationships, our creations, how to work with our children to spread love in the world. We have to understand that. Otherwise, we'll be used. We also have to hold wisdom, but we have to understand love. Love is everything in the coming goddess. We are learning what real love is. That's Pisces. That's divine love. We will get Pisces back as the great work, as the magnum opus, when we understand the power of love and wisdom and truth. Mars energy, how to reclaim Mars. Mars fell hard, and really, because Mars is super, through law of correspondence, associated with the collective masculine and our masculine thought, but also our masculine drive, the drive to succeed, the drive to dominate, the drive to fight, the drive to control, and the drive to merge. Mars rules, some of the rules all of the energies. It's, well, not all of them, but it has a lot to do with the energies of, the misuse of the dragon current. And also, I'll just say it, of pornography, because pornography is the inverted Mars force. It's taking the energy of Eros and using it unconsciously and for the carnal. So what that means is that right now, I just want to say technology is the vehicle of this energy. This is just coming in so powerful right now. And our work here has been on healing that force. And my own initiation has been coming face to face with the brutality of the fallen Mars force, to deeply understand the power of the feminine, the true power of woman, the true power of birth and regeneration. Mars is also connected to the word, the mouth, the Shakti that comes out when we speak. We have to remember how powerful our words are. Period. The Christ force cannot work through us when we're working for the dark. What that means is that if our energy is owned, even subconsciously, and we don't realize it, the true force, we might get bits of it, but the true force has to be right. We have to be right in the window, and then it comes. It's one of the reasons with my work that sometimes I have to sit with something until it's ready, because to speak it prematurely is taking a chance. And the higher you go, you understand that you have to be pure and to the best of your ability before you speak truth. Now, this takes me to Libra. The Hebrew letter of Libra is Lamed. Lamed. And the letter itself looks almost like the lightning bolt. And that letter, it just came in because what I'm speaking is, it means to teach, but also to learn. And what that means is that we have to learn something before we truly can teach it. And that is why Libra is the heart of the whole wisdom in the universe. It is the cosmic heart that is the ruler of everything, because everything is ruled by divine justice. There's a cosmic force that looks over everything we do. We come in with all these things we have to go through. Certain periods, it's more on us. Certain periods, we have little windows where we're kind of free to do whatever we want. That's why understanding, even astrology can help with that, understanding what period you're in your own karmic cycle. Every time we speak, there's a saying, this is really a high accountability. We create karma because the word is the logos. It's the highest form of creating. It's the sound current. Sound is created by light. Sound creates light. It's a vibration that creates light, the spectrum of color, which then creates form or matter. So only the person who has taken true responsibility, and this is big, of not only their outer word, but also the inner word, which is as powerful, if not much, much more powerful. Now, with the feminine, because woman has rulership of the inner plane through the high priestess, the feminine is the subconscious mind in the lunar. And the feminine is also the unfertilized energy, the Prima Materia. It's the unfertilized matter. It's the matter of the Virgin Mary, the matter of the pure feminine force. I just remembered what I wanted to say now. This just popped in. I'm glad this popped in. So let me finish this sentence and then I'll say what just popped in. This is where it gets the stakes are raised. How we think is even more important than how we speak, because how we think is the inner astral level that soon becomes words. All words start with a thought. All form starts with a thought. Matter starts with an inner word, which is the sound current on the inner plane, and then it often becomes what we speak. What we think about often becomes what we speak. Now, I want to say this also relates to the conspiracy question, because if we're constantly thinking about that, it will own our voice and our thoughts. Now, if we're working something out, absolutely, it's part of our creative process and our mission being here. The thing I wanted to say about conspiracies is that what I was alluding to in the Lilith video, the last video, the Lilith mysteries, was that what happens is a lot of the things that are projected into the world throw us off scent of what's really happening. Okay, to get a little Piscean and a little cryptic, that a lot of them are created to specifically divert the focus of saying, hey, using Libra, using the scales of wisdom, this doesn't look right. I'm looking through my higher Venusian intellect, my higher heart, which is the balancing force of justice, and it's not adding up. I feel like I need to search and find out more. I'm going to ask within. through meditation and prayer, but then I'm going to also trust. We have a gut instinct, which is our animal instinct, and that's we're meant to use that in the underworld. That's very Piscean and very Lilith is instinctual. It's like, whoa, I feel that. Subconscious mind is you know what's happening before it happens. There was a video I used to talk about on in these videos that I saw that was a science video, and it was about how it showed all these things that people know before they happen, and one of the examples I loved was a woman walking, and this was out of a psychology channel. These were like this was real psychology. It wasn't even a spiritual channel, and it was on Amazon, like videos a long time ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago I saw it, maybe longer. And it was showing a woman walking, and it was showing how this woman was about to meet her future husband. And it showed in the video how the subconscious mind already knows. And it was such validation. I was like, oh, wow. All you need to do is hear that one time to realize it doesn't mean we always know everything, but your subconscious mind, it's below the surface of your conscious mind, but it knows everything. And that's why we have to learn the subconscious mind. We have to, it's not that we want to mine it and extract the wealth so that we can, you know what I mean? Like to mine the subconscious mind in a negative way is what the lower forces on the planet do. That's what technology is doing. It's mining the feminine dimension, and it's controlling the feminine dimension with algorithms. This is absolutely happening. There's a writer that writes a lot about that. So now let me just see. I had a bunch of things balancing at once. Think about that. Right now, you know if something's going to go well. You know, there's also there was also studies about car, car accidents. I don't want to talk too much about this, but that oftentimes the subconscious mind knows. I mean, it showed this. It showed a child getting ready to run out, and it showed the mother reacting before it even happened. It showed how the child was gonna run out in front of a car, and she already like, something in her already knew and started to go to save it. That's the feminine. Also, this is a code to understanding the mother and the child and just how closely they are related. This is something I talk a lot about, and it was first of all, I've talked about the fertility that brought my son in is is nothing I'm gonna open now. But when after I had my son, I was always like I always would open my eyes and sit there and be like, I'm gonna hear him, and then I'd hear him. My subconscious mind knew. Many, many parents, even fathers will tell you this, because there's a connection to your child where when you as a mother, when they're hungry or when they're not feeling well, and even as they grow up, there's many, many stories about a woman can tell what her kids are going through. This is the subconscious mind, and how we will work with it is that, first of all, meditation is profound, but also all of those teachings that were about the power of now, which we used to talk about a lot because I remember when those teachings first became really big, and Eckhart Tolle was really big. I think I bought his book right when it came out. And that is about how when we're present, when we're in the now, we have access to both the conscious and the unconscious. That's why if we allow ourselves to live in the present, the discernment and the knowledge that we have running through our being is coming from the marriage. It's called the sacred union, or the mind heart coherence in a lot of the psychological studies now. That is the answer to getting in touch with the subconscious mind, and what gives you that? Your breath. The breath and breathing is what lets the heart expand and the mind calm. And when we breathe consciously, we speak consciously, but we also, there's a field of energy around us. This is the prophetess and the serpent. The serpent of Lilith, which is normally like all over the place, it's carnal, it's desired, it can be dangled around. That's Lilith. And it tends to be defensive and aggressive and competitive. But that serpent comes under the influence of meditation. And when it does, it serves Eve. Eve is the focused lunar nodes that are activated when the mind and the heart come into balance. This, something I've written a lot about, is and we call it the threefold soul prism, the union of the magician and the empress, because the magician is the mind, it's Mercury, and the empress is Venus, it's the heart. And when those two, when we're in the present moment, that marriage takes place. And what is activated? The subconscious mind. The subconscious mind now becomes a field of energy, which reminds me again what I want to say about Rome and the Vestal Virgins. This is just popping in right now. What happens is the Vestal Virgins become our auric field when we're in that state of union. When the conscious mind, Mercury, the magician, is in union with the Empress as the generative force and the imagination, the priestess becomes in service of our life. And what I wanted to say, we were talking about Mother Mary with the church and the Vestal Virgins. So as I watched myself, and I watched the video while I made timestamps, I realized I wanted to clarify one thing. That archetype is correct. The archetype of the Venn, I think I have a very strong connection to it. That's correct. The archetype of the Vestal Virgins are the vital body shield. This is the harnessing and the mining of the feminine energy for protection, because Vestal Virgin energy is the energy of the aura. Our aura is Adishakti. It's the protective force. That's another thing we work. Anyone who's worked with me know we work really deep with that. So it's our shield. It's our lunar feminine that receives everything from above and everything from below. So what I want to say about that is the archetype of the Vestal Virgins is not wrong, but woman claiming her power and her womanhood is very important. And so I don't know how deep I want to go, but I'll say that making a mother a virgin. Now there was an epoch where we know that becoming descending into form was more of an inner reality, meaning a force could fertilize us within. It's the archetype of the mysteries, that the spermatoza of spirit fertilizes our auric field, which is the ovum, the egg, and we do this a lot at winter solstice, and we become the fertilized form. We become the empress. We become the imagination, the creative aspect of the feminine. So that archetype is correct, but using it that way removes a big part of the mysteries. And also it's a distortion of the work of this era, which happens through understanding the Lilith force, the serpent force, which comes from understanding how love is, how that force is regenerated in a real love relationship. Our world thinks of it as kind of like a soulmate relationship, meaning when you're in a true commitment. And that alchemy through divine, obviously it's with someone that you've deeply fallen in love with. And there's stages to make that very holy. It doesn't always work, and that's important to understand. However, when it does work, it's used by the Holy Spirit. Even A Course in Miracles says that relationships are the, it uses in the chemistry, are the lab. I think it says relationships are the lab of the Holy Spirit, and they are. It means that the Holy Spirit is, in mysticism, is the sexual force. It's that current of Lilith and Eve. So I know we're getting pretty deep, but I just, what else did I want to say? So the conspiracies were I'm talking about the conspiracies about the conspiracies. I'm going to leave it right there. Um, that distract, and also that take us out of the present moment. If you feel your breath and you feel like that, you just learn to know when you're being too controlled and step back. Meaning, what anything that's there's a difference between the creative genius when that's happening, when you're like, oh my God, and it's everything's happening everywhere. That's the creativity of the artist, and it can look really messy and really chaotic. That's Pisces. That's the chaos of the artist, and it's amazing. That's when we use that force for the pattern of organization, and the genius flows through us. But I'm talking about the scattered, broken up desire, fear, pain, pleasure cycle, where you get this hit, but then you're down. You get a hit, you're down. You feel depleted. We have to learn how to understand. That's Libra. That's this balancing energy of the scales. Now, I want to go back to what I said about the Hebrew letter Lamed, which is the Hebrew letter of the archetype of justice. What this means is that we have to do, for a time, pregnancy. It's related to pregnancy, meaning when we take something in, it requires to spend time with it before it's to learn, and then we can teach on a real platform. And so that's why we have initiation, real initiation. And we work with feminine initiations. We're going to be working with initiation in feminine crucifixion, the descent, the holy descent of INANNA. Initiation is a very real thing. We talk about, you hear about it all the time, but real initiations oftentimes take place where you are completely stripped. They don't take place in the public. Sometimes they have to. In your advanced initiations, you might be really suffering publicly. But for the most part, true initiation, it comes through a deep, deep internal process. And I just thought of something. I'm going to do, I think, an Instagram live, which I have not done on Art of the Feminine, to begin to talk about this coming course, because there's something really big I want to talk about that has to do with the light body woman. I'm going to actually write that down so I don't forget. I've been so busy lately, and so, okay, I'm going to write it down, what I'm going to talk about. See, it already started to slip. It is, oh, got it. Okay. Whew, all right. Okay, so I wanted to say that. So now going back to Rome and the church and this archetype of the purity of the Virgin. So, when I studied a lot of the things like with the catechism and the magisterium, and I had that, I was listening to it oftentimes at night in a deep meditative state. I had a lot come through memory and just through even astral travel and seeing it, excuse me, that um there were hundreds of sects of Christianity. We've kind of been talking about this lately, and some held more direct teachings that had come from the deep, deep, deep wisdom, and some were more just going with the flow. And so when the church officially sat down to say, okay, we're making this a state religion, we're going to merge Rome with Christianity, which is so crazy because when you think about it, Rome was the oppressor of the Hebrews. It's very deep. I could talk about the whole thing for hours because I've done a lot of work with it. there were things that had to be, it was like, okay, how can we use this to, first of all, get people to fall in line, to bring it into, and part of it was the oversight of the hierarchies to say, we're going to need this. The masses need structure. So they allowed for it to come in and spread like wildfire. It was meant to spread because it truly holds some energy. There was one last thing I wanted to say about that period when they were forming the canon, the official. I think I'll just wait on that. So to finish that out, oh, the Virgin. So the Virgin. So, oh, I will say this. So some of the true sects called the church the literalists. They were the literalists, whereas those who really held the wisdom, I'm not talking about all the crazy sects, there were plenty, but the wisdom, they were the only ones that were a threat, were the ones who really held it. Anybody knows if somebody doesn't really have the goods, they're not a threat to you. It's only when you have the goods. And I talked about that in the last video. I threw it in at the end that I had seen something about that period when there was a direct attack to try to sort of wipe it all out. But one of the things that was used was the minimizing of some of the high teachings. And also, it's funny, I have a copy of the Sibylline Oracles here, which are really interesting. There were gospels that had already been held, not, and I'm not saying by the Sibyls, because there were also Gnostic gospels that already existed that held some of the high teachings, and some of them were used, and so some of them come from a period that was long before. What was removed was the inner path and the path of the feminine. The Virgin was kept, and she's a powerful, powerful aspect. The two levels of feminine consciousness that we work with, and that this whole work was founded on, that we've done hundreds of hours of teaching on, were the High Priestess and the Empress. One is the Virgin Mother, and one is Magdalene. The one that has been fertilized, penetrated, is Magdalene. And that's the aspect of the woman that has to be reclaimed as the divine mother. Because it's not until the fertilization of the Virgin is the receiving of spirit, but the mysteries for this era will be understanding on a much deeper level sacred union. And so when we know that, and so just looking at what's happening right now, let's take it to technology for a moment. Technology is growing so fast. Over the years, we've talked plenty about technocracy and the dominance of technology over consciousness. Now, there are people who have really spoken about this, who really understand it. And so I recommend, if you're interested in just doing some research, this is not over exaggerated. Now, whether or not the technology that's coming will be used initially as an oppressor or by the dark side is not fully understood. I believe this is the initiation point. That's what this work is about. Everything we do, we have to. It only takes one. The true wealth is right here, and right here, and right here, right here, right here, right here. This wealth is what will silently, also the High Priestess, actually I'm wearing her colors today. The High Priestess works, and Libra is blue too, and green, which shows you green is Venus and blue is the moon, the lunar feminine. So the waters, the blue water, the ocean of the astral light, and the substance, the prima materia. So we have to reclaim it here. No, none of these people out there are going to give that to you. None of it. And the male teachers didn't hold it. It requires the female initiates. This I know because it's my lineage. It's been with me long before this lifetime, but as a child forward. And the initiations that were the coordinates have shown in my personal life what needs to be addressed. And so holding this wisdom is a privilege, an honor, and a responsibility to reach the hearts that will be the saviors of this planet, truly. It doesn't mean all technology is bad, and technology is actually working really quickly to connect us and to give us options, but something's going to give. And something's going to give because of the power of the word. We just talked about how the word is everything. It's such a hard situation. So I'm just going to put this here in this video because it's Libra. On one hand, we have to be able to speak truth and not be completely blocked. We have to. Although there's many periods throughout history where people were completely blocked, and that gave birth to the artists and the poets and the initiates of the ages. When the greatest oppression and suppression came, they went inward and exploded with the mysteries and with the true understanding. And that's what initiation is also. In my own path, walking, focused on the flame and having deep force come up against you while under tremendous pressure over the period of years. It's hard. It's like carrying the cross, but eventually you release the essence, the divine essence of the divine feminine energy, which becomes your consciousness, rebirthed, your body of light. Your body of light is your true feminine consciousness. And so that is what the goal is. It's not a public affair. It's not a competition. It can only happen inside you. And that's the most beautiful thing. It's only about Libra's discernment too, and weighing things out. Who do you give your time to? What are you watching? We have to be very careful about that right now because everything is out to absorb. And the Mars energy that's building in the world wants to absorb all the female energy. The Mars energy would rather just like create a bunch of human beings and take them up to Mars and have them build the new cities. We're going to have robots too. I mean, it gets pretty deep, but like the whole space colonization thing is about needing people to go too as well. And so, there's also the fantasy of a lot of robots, which are part of the whole coming era. There's just so much. So it has to happen within. Oh, the Mars energy. Yeah, the masculine, we say this is a huge light body woman quote. The masculine is inert without the feminine. The masculine is sterile without the feminine. It has to have feminine energy in order to move. It has to have a lot of people being on board. Feminine energy is feeling and emotion. The feeling force, which is also the force of the Empress, is really, really needed. That's why even in politics, I want to get you to feel good. I want to get you hearing music and dancing and being like, getting those, songs in your head and because when you feel charged for something, you help raise it up. And that's a good thing in certain situations. You want to feel good about love, about your family, about what you create. Feelings create reality. Thinking is a start, the Mercury, but it's the heart and the feminine that creates it. So this is why we need to balance these energies and understand how we feel. Some of the negatives of this time are real dampening of the heart. The heart, I've written about this a lot, it's like it has a damp towel around it and it can't breathe and it's getting suffocated. And so we have to take care of our heart. We have to seek genuine friendship with our inner teachers And with those people who love us, it's a challenging time. A lot of people are isolated and don't have true friends. Everyone's distracted. And so the quality of relationships has really changed. We need to understand that. So let me just see where I want to go. So I think I mentioned the vital body, the Vestal Virgins. Wanted to just be clear that it wasn't because the Vestal Virgins is an archetype, and in the keeping the flame, the Vestal in my own chart, I have Vesta conjunct Mercury exactly, and so Mercury and Vesta, and we talked a lot about it in the Virgin Sophia video. That's the energy of the flame and holding it within by the devotion to it and by the purity of what we think. It's true. When we purify our mind, the heart flame is big. It's really big. And that's why the teachings of the Christ with forgiveness, surrender, it's interesting. I look at what's happening in the world right now, and the Christ, even though they were living in a very oppressed time by the Romans, he never said, like, stack up your weapons, do a lot of prepping, it's coming. He said, drop everything and follow me. I am the way and the truth and the life. She who believes on me will never die. This is the I am. It's the solar force within. It's the divine Christ. Christ is our creative principle. We have to create through the Christ force. That's what it is. The Christic force is the creative force. And so we're just getting to the point where we know how to hold it and understand our own inner kingdom, which we call the divine feminine kingdom. I just, in the last writing I did, I called it the feminine. This is so exciting. Actually, this makes me really happy. I'm going to talk about it. The feminine energy empire. The feminine, I was just in my own creativity thinking about the feminine energy empire. It's the Garden of Eden rebirthed. It's the harmonious living with each other where we're fertile and where we know how to use our fertility, where we understand beauty, we understand our emotions. It doesn't mean it's utopian. It means that it's awake. And it means that we're committed to honoring ourselves so we can honor each other. When we honor ourselves, we honor each other. And when we honor each other, we honor ourselves. It's reciprocal. They are a mirror of each other. And again, that doesn't mean like some karma is going to pop up in our auric field. It pops up. The way I learned it once when I was studying in New York was that our auric field is filled with positives, with pluses, and with negatives. So we have these coordinates in our field, and we're going along at any given time. A negative could go off. But if we neutralize it through our consciousness, it doesn't go off. Instead, the energy is channeled to the positive. Can we get by in our whole lifetime without having any of them go up? We wouldn't grow. We need to grow, but we also want, once you learn a lesson, you can neutralize the other things around it. The big ones of initiation are big. When you know you have no, when you're the victim, as in Pisces, the hangman, you have to surrender. The only way up is down. When you're under that influence, you have to go down, you have to go in, and you have to sit with it. You have to do pregnancy with it, and then you can speak about it. This is the absolute. Okay. Should I even do this? I talked a lot. I was going to talk about the solar eclipse. So, right, we just had it. Let me see if there's any significant things I want to think we had. Okay, Mars is in Cancer. That's deep. The Mars in Cancer for this eclipse is deep because Mars is in the water sign. When Mars is in the water signs of the subconscious mind. So when we have Mars in the underworld, in the sign of Cancer, which it is right now, it can be very powerful. It can also be super passive aggressive and like debilitated, be like decapitated. But when we surrender to Mars in Cancer, I know a lot of people with Mars in Cancer too, who can be the most prolific gatherers of information because it takes you in to the Divine Mother's womb. But Mars is in Cancer right now. Let me see. Venus is in Scorpio right now at 11 degrees. So Venus is in her Lilith energy. getting ready. She's getting ready. Jupiter in Gemini, still Saturn retrograde in Pisces, Neptune in Pisces. This is a big one for me. Oh, Pluto is big. So this last degree of Pluto in Capricorn, that's on the table. It's really big. I will say since the lunar eclipse, I feel the deepest energy right now. I've been in a state of really heightened feeling. I'll just share that personally, that I shared that lunar eclipse was on my and it's been some of the deepest energy I've felt in a long time from that eclipse to this eclipse. I was like, do I go on today? But I'm here. It's really a deep time. So Neptune is preparing, and the North Node will come into Neptune as well, which is going to be big. All right, let me see if there's anything else about. I think we're good. I think we talked a lot about Libra, and I think that's good. Okay, let me see if there's anything else. Until women know how to use their feminine energy, the world will not heal. Women betray each other, and they are quick sometimes to lift up a man. Now that's I'm saying you could say the reverse of that also, but just digest it. Be zen about it. Receive the gift of it, because everything is dual in this underworld. But when you're in the wisdom, it transcends duality. That's like you're in the poetry. Everything in the world, I could say this, and you could say no, but this. The opposite of everything is true in the underworld. But when you're in the wisdom, you're seeing it from the poetic level. So you receive the knowledge of the statement. Your mind doesn't automatically go to the opposite. It goes to what is wise in this statement. What can I integrate from this statement? That's what we call wisdom. Wisdom rarely fights. Wisdom gives birth to more wisdom. That's why it's good to be wise. Okay. All right. I think I talked about this as things. Okay. Yeah, we've been talking about the Libra solar eclipse, and this is really bringing in the Sophia impulse, or the Sophianic impulse, divine feminine astrology. We work with the 12 forces of the Zodiac, as well as the 7 spiritual centers to access the Elohim. There's so much, but I think I've been talking a lot. So just one moment. This is about balancing the forces in the heart. If anything, Libra is balancing Lilith and Eve. Okay, the greatest lesson on earth. Woman, okay, I wrote, woman must be obedient to her inner Christ force. I'm saying this for everybody, but I'm sending out a message for women as well. This is the only way to direct the forces of Libra and Lilith. This, we just said, Libra energy heals Pisces. Libra energy is the balancing of Lilith and Eve, the subtle voice of spirit that we call the Hierophant that comes through. I want to say this. This is actually really big. Christ is the subtle voice inside you. There's a subtle voice. And when we're too preoccupied and distracted, or when we're too overloaded with worldly stuff, that subtle voice is buried. I mean, this is so, it's the serpent. The serpent is subtle. You think of the serpent, when in mysticism, when we talk about the subtle voice, we're talking about the serpent because it's subtle and it's molded by how we feel and think. So the subtle voice is the Christ force. The Christ is both the head and the tail of the serpent. It's the whole spectrum. And at the very bottom of it is what we would say the satanic or the evil. So the subtle energy, the subtle voice, this in this era is your highest wealth. This is why I will say that it's harder right now, that there are so many forces fighting against the subtle voice. Why? Because the subtle voice is a direct link to your creative energy. And it's, Blavatsky said, the voice of the silence, but it's in every lineage. It carries the divine wisdom. And we get little glimpses of it. It's that thing that flashes across and it's gone. The outward, sometimes some of the lower teachers can send us big signs. Oftentimes the human is just working through karma. They haven't accessed the subtle voice, so they have to go through their karma, get hit. Again, there's initiation that is a contract. You have to go through initiation. Karma is just all the stuff that we're overloaded with. That comes from not hearing the subtle voice. But what's happening with technology is that it's kind of harnessing the inner voice of the subconscious mind. The technology knows us better than we know ourselves. That's the saying. And it's because it can get into the subconscious where we're just neglecting it. We don't even know what's happening down there. But that's what's, as we talked about with that video, that's what's creating our reality. So if something gets in there and says, do this, and you don't know that that just happened, that's what we call impulsive or impulse and addiction. There's a voice inside saying, do this, go for this. That's what addiction is. It's just a build up of that inner voice that keep driving us until it's a physical craving. But at first, it's a subtle craving. So how we hear the inner voice, always through the breath. The breath is the subtle current of the solar force, the sunlight fluid, the prana of the Eastern masters. And the breath is the direct link to the heart and the lungs. The Hebrew letter is Aleph. And it means it's the beginning of everything we do starts with the breath. I'm lowering my voice, so I hope you can hear me. So a breath, and also like whenever I'm teaching, that voice is what's teaching through me. So that subtle voice becomes the out front voice. And so there's a lot of listening. You listen as you speak and receive. Like sometimes I'm receiving from the people who are watching, because the true word travels on the currents of the prana and the astral light. When we say the high priestess is the connection of every point in time at once, we mean that every point connects to every other point, and that's the truth. One point is the microcosm of the whole. And so it's the breath that allows us to see that. The sage who sees all and the prophetess is connecting there. And there's something else that wants to be said. Just one moment. Real prophecy is the birth of love. It's love. When we prophesize, we're just giving love. The Christ was just giving love. It's a fountain, one of the esoteric archetypes of prophecy and of wisdom is the spiral. It's the fountain. It's the serpent that goes out. The serpent force can be used to destroy, or it can be used to build up the feminine energy empire, the kingdom. So we have to learn how to use it. This is, I'm happy that this solar eclipse is actually bringing all this in. It's trined my Mercury and Vesta, which is kind of cool. Okay. So the subtle voice, let me see, is there any other way I'm meant to mention right now for the subtle voice? Listening to others in relationship. It's so hard to do these days. There's so many things pulling. I realize sometimes when I'm not listening to people, and especially my son, because I'm very aware of the connection that flows between him and I just on a wisdom level. And so when I catch myself not listening and not speaking consciously, it's almost like I'm like, oh, whoa, I'm so sorry. Because there's certain relationships where you pass wisdom where they have to be very respected, because you have to show up for them or they don't turn on. Love is meant to be that way, but we're not quite there. True love relationship, we're meant to listen in the same way we speak. I had to learn this lesson really big. I have a lot of Mercury and Gemini that would make me talk too fast because I was channeling too fast. And You had to really, really listen when you're deep in relationship. That's what you have to practice. And you can heal everything from that place. So, okay. The greatest lesson on earth at this time is to learn to see through the eyes of love, to activate the wisdom of Libra. Libra is the balance of forces, the solar lunar balance through the goddess Ma'at as divine justice. This is the true art of the feminine. This vision turns enemies into souls who teach us how to live like the masters. Libra is the higher heart of all the archetypes. She is the portal of the artist, the visionary, and sage to see the world as God sees the world. These are the artists of the coming new era, the age of Aquarius. We've said this is that we call it the Venus epoch, or we call it the goddess epoch in the age of Venus, because it's going to be the age of reclaiming the feminine creative force. It's truly reclaiming creativity and wealth, spiritual wealth. We actually have to learn to let go of material wealth so that we even have the desire to know spiritual wealth. Most people don't even know there's a treasure buried inside and they don't know that. My pendant is speaking to me right now. That's so funny. This is a pendant of the Christos, and I just felt it. So, okay, I'm going to look down in just a moment. The next great frontier is love. I meant to say, finish on this. Woman is the archetype of love. She's the mother that gives birth to the child and feeds the child at their breast, that touches the child, that her voice nurtures the child. Meaning, Eve was the archetype of the embodiment of love. And we, again, obviously we all have the feminine inside us, we all have love, but the physical woman, her body represents love personified, embodied. When we don't, okay, let me just say this. I feel like this voice is really pushing to knock on the door right now. There are places in the world right now, and it's sometimes in the West, it's hard for us to know this and really understand what it means, where women are treated less than animals. This is not a small thing, because if the collective woman has that big of a wound, we are living in fallen Mars. When you have places where a woman's voice cannot be heard outside, and she cannot be in public spaces, and she cannot show herself, we need to look at that. Now, obviously, there's so many layers of how we could talk about it, but that's something that needs to be known. We also have to understand how women's children are torn from them and used in a very bad way, even with technology and even with the influences of the big entertainment industries that knowingly put things out that will take. Obviously, art has to be able to thrive and live and breathe, but there's some things right now that that are not right. They're off, really off. That's the minds of the children. And that means that's the direct link to the woman and the feminine who have given birth to them, but the collective woman. So also with women, women, the woman is not perfect on this planet. The woman has plenty of problems. And there's been lots of problems in feminism where men felt emasculated or this or that, or it's been run by a lower force. That's all real. And women can be horrific in relationships. So what I just want to say that straight out. This isn't to say women are perfect at all, but women have to take responsibility for their feminine energy in order to heal with the collective. Every woman who does that is changing the world much more than we understand, because it's ready. It's ready. It's going to be absolutely necessary. I will say that Revelation does have that profound archetype of Mary standing on the serpent force, and the crown of the 12 stars, which is the risen zodiac. That is the Empress. Also, that's the birth. Well, the Empress has the 12 stars in her archetype. That's what that is. That's the divine mother on her throne. The heart of the feminine is the throne. So I'm just going to take a moment. The voice is really active today. So the feminine initiates. All right. Yeah, we talked a lot about this. And we create idols out of the images we desire to give our feminine energy to. The moment we remove this valuable energy, it's like pulling the plug in a drain and all the shadow power runs out. So idols are real. What do you give your power to, expecting it will help you rather than going here? The main lesson is to go here. Connect to the subtle voice, connect to the inner Christ. Oh, this is big. I'm going to end on this note. I just wrote this. Actually, maybe I'll post it. Let me see. I'm going to post this. I'll post this on Instagram. Come follow on Instagram. These are quotes that I'm going to be posting. All right. Okay, I'm going to take a moment and look down. It was really nice to be here with you. I love seeing the number 33 right now, and 23. 23 is the number of woman as well. It holds the energy of the Empress and the High Priestess. So just one moment. So good to see all of you. So happy to see you. Let's see, how long have I been going? A while. This was going to be a quick one. Let me tell you what's coming going forward. Going forward, I teach the feminine mysteries right now through astrology and through many other things, but on this platform, I'm going to be uploading shorter videos. This was another kind of longer one. They're going to be very digestible, so I'm just going to be uploading them more frequently. I just want to let you know that's what's coming, and they will be for the astrological transits, and we'll be teaching through them. So that being said, if it was super easy, we would be done with the whole thing by now. And it's not easy. We're in a time where it's really hard. Right now, there's probably going to be, I don't know which way things will go in the US right now. We're leading up to an election, and there's so much. It's not a clear sight right now what exactly is happening. There's a lot. So just follow your heart and try not to give too much away. I was happy to see in the United States last night that I did happen to watch a debate, and it was pretty civil. And I was wondering what would happen with the eclipse energy, but it was actually quite good. But I think my feeling is that we have some things coming in the next 2 to 3 months before before the North Node transit hits Pisces. So we have to really stay here. I am so excited for this course, the reclamation of the Crone, but it's also starting on Samhain for 8 weeks. This is going to be a journey that truly holds goddess ritual. Now, that energy obviously is sometimes used by the shadow forces. The pagan holidays are used, we know, for the wrong purposes. I guarantee you, this is what these holy days are meant for. And so I hope to see many of you joining for this kickoff on Samhain. And I'll be posting more information about it coming up really soon. Gonna take a peek down, see who's here. So nice to see you, Shez, and Natalie. It's different intuition type because it's unique and makes people annoyed and not recognized. And it's ADHD and the fallen Mars exactly, but you're shaming it. Oh, no, 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 no. No, 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 no. Oh, no, I'm not talking about ADHD. No, I want to be very clear about that. I'm talking about just human distraction. And we all have it. And there's no shame here. We all suffer and we all have our unique expression. So I just want to be really clear about that. I have plenty of that in my own life. So, okay. In fact, the truth is that I want to say that energy actually has a defensiveness to it that blocks out being completely absorbed in something. A lot of people that have different like learning styles, there's a gift in it, and we always say that. So one of the ways you can find that out is in your own chart and just see like where your placements of your mental energy are. All right. Vehicle, Brianne, it feels like the feminine is ushering in divine union, becoming more and more present. I believe that. Let her words flow through you. Thank you. Oh, it's so nice to see you from Wales and from Senegal. Ah, I love it. Um, sermon in a sentence. Oh, okay. Ads run. Yeah, my ads. Are there ads right now on this video? I didn't even know that. Sorry about that. I had no idea. My last video, there were ads running and I looked at the settings and they weren't on. So I don't know why it was happening, but I think we got it fixed. Okay. There, and I do have ads, but not running at a really regular frequency. Thanks for this live stream and for your juicy wisdom. Hugs to you, Melissa. All right, I'm just making sure if there was any big questions. So excited. I'm so happy to have you here. Yes, it's massive. Yeah. Okay. I hope to see many of you soon. I will close this out with I am before me. I am behind me. I am at my left. I am at my right. I am above me. I am below me. I am unto me. I am, I know I am. I am, I know I am. If you're still here, please give the video a like, a thumbs up, come back and comment and subscribe. I really appreciate it having you here at this time because it's a really big time on the planet and also in this work. And so I bow to you. And if there's anyone you know who would appreciate this work, please share it with them. A lot of you have been so generous and shared these videos. I appreciate it more than you will ever, ever know. And so until next time, sending out huge love. Namaste.